The training facility on Sector 9 hummed with the usual collection of sounds: equipment whirring, boots hitting metal floors, and the constant chatter of recruits who thought they knew everything about combat. I stood in the observation deck, my 4 eyes scanning the practice range below, where the newest batch of Galactic Defense Force trainees were running through their standard weapons qualification. And then there was her, Lieutenant Kira Thompson, human, 5'6" of what appeared to be complete and utter incompetence, with a plasma rifle. 23 misses, my assistant, Vorn, muttered beside me. His tentacles twitched, with barely concealed amusement. In a row. That has to be some kind of record. I watched as Thompson lined up another shot. The target drone hovered exactly where it was supposed to, stationary, barely 30 meters away. A child from any species in the coalition could hit it. She squeezed the trigger. The bolt of plasma sailed past the drone by at least 2 meters, scorching the far wall. 24, Vorn corrected. The other recruits had stopped their own drills to watch. I could hear their laughter even through the observation deck's reinforced glass. A Krillian, with blue-scaled skin, was practically doubled over. 2 Venturi were clicking their mandibles in what passed for their version of hysterical laughter. Thompson's face remained neutral. She reset her stance, checked her weapon, and fired again. Miss. How did she even make it through basic? Vorn asked. The humans usually send us their best. They're Marines. They're special forces. This one cannot hit a target that is literally floating in one place, waiting to be shot. I had wondered the same thing. Humanity had proven themselves worthy additions to the Galactic Defense Force over the past decade. Scrappy, aggressive, and disturbingly creative in combat situations. Their performance during the Kandrik's incursion had earned them respect across the coalition. But this one? Thompson seemed to be defying every positive stereotype her species had built. Captain Ryloth wants her removed from the program, Vorn continued. Says she is wasting everyone's time and resources. I nodded slowly. Schedule a review. Tomorrow, 0900 hours. Down on the range, Thompson had finally landed a hit. The other recruits offered mocking applause. She ignored them, her dark eyes focused on the target drone as if she were studying it rather than celebrating her marginal success. Something about that look made me pause, but I dismissed it. Probably just stubbornness. Humans had that in abundance. The next morning, Thompson sat across from me in my office. She wore her uniform with perfect precision, every crease sharp, every insignia exactly where it should be. Her posture was ramrod straight. Only her hands, folded neatly in her lap, showed any tension. The slightest tremor in her left fingers. Lieutenant Thompson, I began, pulling up her file on my data screen. Your performance in weapons training has been, to put it diplomatically, problematic. Yes, Commander Thal, she replied. Her voice was steady. You understand that marksmanship is a fundamental requirement for service in the Galactic Defense Force. Without it, you become a liability to your unit, to the entire coalition, in fact. I understand, sir. And yet you continue to miss targets that a first-year cadet could hit with their eyes closed, assuming they have eyes. I gestured vaguely with 2 of my limbs. Some species do not, but they still manage better accuracy than you have demonstrated. For just a moment, something flickered across her face. Amusement? Frustration? It vanished before I could identify it. Permission to speak freely, sir? I leaned back in my chair. Granted. I appreciate the concern about my performance, but I request the opportunity to continue training. I will not fail when it matters. The confidence in her voice struck me as bizarre given her record. When it matters? Lieutenant, every training exercise matters. That is why they are called training exercises. They prepare you for actual combat. If you cannot hit a stationary target in a controlled environment, what happens when someone is shooting back at you? Then I will not miss, she said simply. Vorn, standing by the door, made a choking sound that he tried to pass off as a cough. I fixed Thompson with my most serious stare, all 4 eyes focused on her. That is not how combat works. You do not suddenly become competent when the stakes increase. You rely on training, on muscle memory, on skills developed through countless hours of practice, skills which you have manifestly failed to develop. With respect, Commander, you have not seen me in actual combat. Because we do not send people who cannot pass basic qualification into combat. My voice rose slightly. I forced myself to remain calm. Lieutenant, I am trying to help you here. There is no shame in admitting that. Perhaps military service is not your calling. Humanity has many other roles in the coalition. Science, engineering, diplomacy. I am a soldier, Thompson interrupted quietly. It is what I am good at. The sheer audacity of that statement, given the evidence, left me momentarily speechless. Vorn had given up trying to hide his reaction and was openly staring at her. I pulled up her file again, searching for something, anything, that might explain this disconnect between her self-assessment and reality. Her previous service record with the human military was odd. Lots of classified sections, commendations that listed no details about what she had actually done to earn them. 3 different commanding officers had written recommendations, all of them glowing, but curiously vague about specifics. Your record from Earth is interesting, I said carefully, but it does not include any actual marksmanship scores. Why is that? Classified, sir. How convenient. Her jaw tightened, slightly. I did not write the classification protocols, Commander. I just follow them. I drummed my claws on the desk, thinking, something was off about this whole situation. But I had a training facility to run, and dozens of other recruits who actually showed promise. I could not afford to waste more time on someone who seemed determined to fail. I am giving you 1 week, I told her. 7 standard days. If you cannot demonstrate significant improvement in your marksmanship scores, I will be recommending your dismissal from the program. Understood? Understood, sir. Thank you for the opportunity. She stood, saluted crisply, and left. Vorn waited until the door closed before speaking. She is either the most delusional being I have ever met, or... He trailed off. Or what? I do not know. But did you notice she never asked what score she needed to achieve? Never asked for additional training time or resources? Just accepted the terms. I had noticed. It was strange. Run a deeper background check. See if you can get any of those classified sections declassified. Contact her previous commanding officers directly, if you have to. You think there is more to this? I stared at the door. Thompson had just exited through. I think that a human who cannot shoot straight should not be this calm about potentially being kicked out of the military. Either she is hiding something, or she genuinely does not care. Neither option makes sense. Over the next 3 days, Thompson's performance did not improve. If anything, it got worse. She missed shots that should have been physically impossible to miss. The other recruits had moved beyond mockery into outright concern that they might somehow be assigned to serve alongside her. On the 4th day, everything changed. The attack alarm woke me from sleep at 0347 hours. I scrambled from my quarters, pulling on my uniform as I ran toward the command center. Vorn met me in the corridor, his skin flushed purple with stress. Raiders, he gasped. 15 ships. They hit the outer perimeter defenses 12 minutes ago. Most of the security force is engaging them at the northern docking bays, but 3 ships broke through. They are heading for the armory. I cursed in 3 languages. The armory held enough advanced weaponry to outfit a small army. If raiders got their hands on it, they could sell those weapons to insurgent groups across half the sector. What forces do we have available? I demanded, as we entered the command center. The tactical officer, a Venturi named Skelix, pulled up a display. Most of our combat-ready personnel are already engaged. We have 17 recruits in the barracks. That is it. 17 untested recruits against battle-hardened raiders. Fantastic. I studied the tactical map. The raiders were moving fast, cutting through our minimal internal defenses. Deploy the recruits. Have them set up a defensive position here, at Junction 7. It is the last choke point before the armory. Tell them to hold that position at all costs. Skelix clicked his mandibles nervously. Sir, these are barely trained. I know what they are. Do you have a better option? He did not. None of us did. I watched through the security feeds as the recruits assembled at Junction 7. 16 of them looked terrified but determined. They set up a defensive perimeter, weapons ready, covering the 3 corridors that led to their position. And then there was Thompson, standing slightly apart from the others, checking her rifle with methodical precision. She is going to get them all killed, Vorn whispered. The raiders appeared in Corridor C12, first. 8 of them, heavily armed, moving in a practiced formation. They had done this before. Our recruits opened fire. The corridor lit up with plasma bolts and particle beams. Thompson did not fire. She just stood there, weapon raised, watching. What is she doing? Skelix demanded. Why is she not shooting? The raiders returned fire. 2 recruits went down, their shields overwhelmed. The others held position, maintaining suppression fire. But the raiders were advancing. They had better armor, better weapons, and actual combat experience. Thompson still had not fired a single shot. Someone order her to engage, I snapped. Before anyone could respond, the raiders changed tactics. 4 of them broke left, using a damaged wall section for cover, trying to flank the recruit position. The recruits did not see them. They were too focused on the frontal assault. And then Thompson moved. She spun, her rifle coming up in one fluid motion, and fired 6 times in rapid succession. 6 shots. 4 raiders dropped instantly, killed before they could even cry out. The 5th took a hit to the shoulder that sent him sprawling. The 6th shot destroyed the weapon of the last raider in the flanking group, leaving him disarmed and stunned. The entire sequence took less than 3 seconds. What? Vorn could not even finish the sentence. The recruits, seeing the flanking attempt stopped, rallied. They pushed their advantage, forcing the remaining raiders in the main group to fall back. But 3 more raiders appeared from Corridor B9, and 2 more from A4. They were trying to overwhelm the position through sheer numbers. Thompson dropped to one knee, her breathing controlled, her movements economical. She fired again. Once, twice, 3 times. 3 raiders down. She shifted her aim without pause. 2 more shots. The raider furthest back, who had been hanging behind cover, dropped with a smoking hole in his chest plate. She was not just hitting them. She was hitting them in the exact spots where their armor was weakest. Joints, gaps, the seams where different plates connected. Every shot was perfect. Every shot was lethal. The other recruits barely had to fire. Thompson methodically eliminated every raider who appeared in her sight lines. When her rifle overheated, she smoothly transitioned to her sidearm, never breaking rhythm. When that ran dry, she picked up a fallen raider's weapon and continued. In 8 minutes, it was over. 23 raiders, dead or incapacitated. 0 additional recruit casualties, beyond the initial 2 injured. And Lieutenant Kira Thompson, the woman who could not hit a stationary training drone, had not missed a single shot. The command center was silent. We all stared at the security feeds, trying to process what we had just witnessed. "Get her up here," I finally managed to say. "Now." Thompson arrived 15 minutes later. She still carried her rifle, though she had cleared it and set the safety. There was a slight scorch mark on her left shoulder, where a plasma bolt had grazed her shield, but otherwise she looked completely unruffled. "Sit," I told her. She sat. I had about 400 questions. I asked the only one that mattered. "Would you like to explain what just happened down there?" "Raiders attacked. My unit held the position. Sir, do not play games with me, Lieutenant. You just went from the worst marksman in the history of this facility to... I gestured helplessly at the tactical display, which still showed the aftermath of the engagement. She met my gaze calmly. I told you I would not miss when it mattered. That is not an explanation. For the first time since I had met her, Thompson smiled. It was not a nice smile. It was the smile of someone who had been waiting for this exact moment. You want an explanation, Commander? Fine. I am a scout sniper. Was, technically, Human Marine Corps, specialized in extreme range elimination and counter-sniper operations. My longest confirmed kill is 3,748 meters, in wind, at night, through a sandstorm. The room was very quiet. She continued. My previous assignment was classified because I spent 18 months embedded with an insurgent group on Telvor Prime, feeding intelligence back to command while maintaining my cover. Could not exactly blow that cover by demonstrating expert marksmanship, could I? Before that, I spent 2 years training other snipers. Before that, I was part of the team that eliminated High Commander Vex during the Kandrix incursion. You might have heard about that. The shot that killed Vex came from inside his own flagship. That was me. Took me 6 months to infiltrate that ship. My mandibles hung open. Vorn looked like he might faint. So yes, Commander, I can shoot. I can shoot very, very well. But I have spent the last 5 years of my life in situations where I specifically could not demonstrate that skill. Where missing was the whole point. Where being good at missing kept me alive and kept my missions viable. She leaned forward slightly. Do you have any idea how hard it is to deliberately miss? To calculate exactly how much to miss, by so it looks convincing but not suspicious? To do it consistently enough that everyone believes you just cannot shoot? It is exponentially harder than actually hitting the target. I found my voice. Then why? Why put yourself through weeks of humiliation and mockery? Why not just tell us? Because you told me I needed a week to prove myself. I figured I would use that week to see what this facility was really like, how it ran, where the security weaknesses were, how the other recruits performed under stress. You learn a lot about people when they think you are incompetent. They stop guarding their words around you. Stop seeing you as a threat. She stood up, slinging her rifle over her shoulder. And I learned plenty. Like the fact that your perimeter defenses have blind spots in sectors 4 and 7 that any decent raider group would exploit, which they did. Like the fact that your recruits have great aim, but terrible tactical awareness. They would have all died tonight if I had not been there to cover their blind spots. Like the fact that your security protocols are about 6 years out of date and need a complete overhaul. Thompson moved toward the door, then paused. I will have a full report on your desk by tomorrow morning. Recommendations for improving training, security, and tactical response. Because here is the thing, Commander. You said I would fail when it mattered. But the only failure I saw tonight was systemic. This facility should never have been this vulnerable. Those raiders should never have gotten within 100 meters of your armory. She fixed me with a look that made me feel like I was the one being evaluated. I passed your test. Question is, did your facility pass mine? And with that, she left. Vorn slowly sank into a chair. I think I need to reassess my entire understanding of humans. I could only nod. Because Lieutenant Kira Thompson, the woman we had all dismissed as incompetent, had just taught us all a very expensive lesson. Never, ever underestimate a human who appears to be failing. They might just be gathering intelligence. The facility was. Still dealing with the aftermath of the raid when Thompson's report landed on my desk at 0730 hours the next morning. 47 pages. Detailed diagrams. Tactical analyses that made our current security protocols look like they had been designed by children playing with blocks. I was reading through her suggestions for restructuring the perimeter defense grid when Captain Ryloth stormed into my office. "You cannot seriously be considering keeping her," he said without preamble. His scales were flushed orange with agitation. "She deliberately deceived us, made fools of everyone here. That kind of insubordination should result in immediate dismissal." I looked up from the report. "She saved 17 lives last night, prevented a catastrophic security breach, and handed us a comprehensive analysis of our vulnerabilities that is frankly brilliant. By lying to us for weeks." "She never lied. We assumed she was incompetent. She simply did not correct our assumption." I tapped the report. "Have you read this?" She identified security flaws that our own tactical team missed, flaws that nearly cost us everything. Ryloth's tail lashed in frustration. "That is not the point. The point is trust. How can we trust someone who manipulates situations like this? Who watches us all scramble around her supposed incompetence while secretly evaluating us?" He had a point, a small one. But watching Thompson methodically eliminate those raiders had shown me something important. Humans did not think like the rest of us. They were unpredictable, unconventional, and frequently irritating. They were also devastatingly effective when properly utilized. "Schedule a facility-wide meeting," I told him. 0900 hours. Everyone attends, including Thompson. "What are you planning?" "Something that will either solve this problem or create an entirely new one. Possibly both." The mess hall was packed. Every instructor, every recruit, every staff member who could be spared from their duties. The room buzzed with speculation. Everyone had heard about Thompson's performance during the raid by now. The security footage had spread through the facility like wildfire. I stood at the front, waiting for silence. Thompson sat in the back row, her expression neutral, hands folded calmly in her lap. The other recruits near her kept glancing sideways, as if reassessing everything they thought they knew. "Yesterday morning," I began, "this facility suffered a coordinated attack by raider forces. Thanks to the quick response of our personnel and recruits, we successfully repelled that attack with minimal casualties. However, this incident has revealed significant issues that we need to address." I pulled up the tactical display, showing the attack patterns and response times. Our perimeter defenses were breached in 3 locations. Our internal response was delayed by outdated protocols. Our recruits, while brave, demonstrated gaps in tactical awareness that could have proven fatal. These are not failures of individual personnel. These are systemic failures. My failures, as the commander of this facility. That got their attention. Admitting fault was not something most coalition officers did publicly. But there is another issue we need to discuss. "Lieutenant Thompson, please stand." She rose smoothly, her face betraying nothing. Lieutenant Thompson spent 3 weeks pretending to be the worst marksman in this facility's history. During that time, she observed our operations, identified our weaknesses, and compiled a comprehensive security analysis. She also, when actual combat occurred, demonstrated skills that place her among the most elite operators in the Galactic Defense Force. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some angry, some confused, some grudgingly impressed. Many of you feel deceived by her actions. Captain Ryloth has argued that her behavior represents a breach of trust that should result in dismissal. He may be right. Thompson's expression did not change, but something flickered in her eyes. However, I want to pose a question to all of you. What is the purpose of training? Is it simply to develop individual skills? Or is it to prepare us for the chaos and unpredictability of actual combat? I gestured at the tactical display, switching to footage from the raid. "Watch this. Corridor C12. The raiders execute a flanking maneuver. Our recruits do not see it. They are focused on the frontal assault, exactly as their training taught them. They are about to be overrun." The footage showed Thompson's sudden movement, the precise shots, the collapsing raiders. Lieutenant Thompson saw what was happening because she was not just reacting to what was in front of her. She was thinking like an enemy would think. anticipating moves before they happened. She did this because her training was not just about shooting targets. It was about understanding combat as a dynamic, evolving situation, where the enemy will do everything possible to dive. Exploit your assumptions. I paused, letting that sink in. She spent 3 weeks exploiting our assumptions, making us comfortable with the idea that she was not a threat, and in doing so, she taught us a lesson that training exercises never could. She showed us that we have become predictable, that our protocols are rigid, that we react to what we expect rather than preparing for what we do not. Vorn stepped forward from his position by the wall. Commander, are you suggesting we should applaud being manipulated? No, I am suggesting we should learn from it. I turned to face the assembled personnel directly. The raiders who attacked us yesterday were not following our training protocols. They were not predictable. They adapted, exploited weaknesses, and came within meters of achieving their objective. If Thompson had been the incompetent recruit we all believed her to be, they would have succeeded. I pulled up another display, showing Thompson's written report. She has given us 47 pages of recommendations. Not criticisms, not complaints. Actionable intelligence about how to improve every aspect of our operations. She did her job as an intelligence operative, which is apparently what she actually is, and she did it well. The crowd was quieter now, more thoughtful. I could see opinions shifting, though not universally. So here is what is going to happen. Lieutenant Thompson is not being dismissed. She is being promoted. Effective immediately, she will be serving as our chief training consultant, with the specific mandate to identify weaknesses in our programs and develop solutions. That caused an uproar. Ryloth looked like he might explode. Several instructors were shouting objections, but I noticed that some of the other recruits, particularly those who had fought alongside Thompson during the raid, were nodding slowly. I raised my limbs for silence. I know this is controversial, but consider the alternative. We continue as we are, comfortable, in our assumptions, until the next attack exploits vulnerabilities we did not even know existed. Or, we adapt. We learn. We become better. I looked directly at Thompson. Lieutenant? Do you accept this position? She stepped forward, moving through the crowd with easy confidence. When she reached the front, she turned to face everyone. I accept. On one condition. Which is that everyone in this room, including Commander Thal, participates in the new training protocols I am going to develop. No exceptions for rank or position. If we are going to fix the problems here, everyone needs to be part of the solution. The audacity of it struck me silent for a moment. Then I found myself laughing. It was a rasping, wheezing sound that startled half the room. Agreed, though I suspect I am going to regret this. Thompson smiled that dangerous smile again. Probably. Sir. The next 6 weeks were the most challenging of my career. Thompson rebuilt our training program from the ground up. She introduced scenarios that were deliberately unfair, exercises where the expected solution did not work, simulations that punished predictable thinking. She also instituted what she called humility training. Every instructor, including myself, had to spend time in exercises where we were placed at a disadvantage, forced to operate outside our expertise, made to feel the discomfort of genuine uncertainty. It was exhausting. It was humbling. It was exactly what we needed. The recruits who had mocked Thompson during her first weeks became her most dedicated students. They had seen what real competence looked like, and they wanted to develop it themselves. The facility's atmosphere shifted from comfortable routine to intense focus. But not everyone adapted well. Captain Ryloth continued to resist, arguing that we were compromising established protocols for untested methods. 3 instructors requested transfers rather than adjust their teaching styles, and there were still whispers about whether Thompson could truly be trusted. Those whispers evaporated completely on the day the Hask arrived. The Hask were not raiders or insurgents. They were a legitimate military force from a hostile nation at the edge of coalition space. Their ships appeared in our sector without warning, broadcasting a simple message. They claimed jurisdiction over Sector 9 based on some ancient treaty that no one else recognized. They gave us 48 hours to evacuate or be removed by force. The coalition scrambled to respond, but the nearest fleet was 6 days away. We were on our own. I called an emergency meeting with my senior staff. Thompson was there now, sitting at the table with the others, her opinion valued rather than dismissed. They have 12 capital ships, Skelix reported, his mandibles clicking with stress. Plus support craft. We have defensive platforms and the garrison troops, but we are outnumbered 4-1, outgunned by even more. Evacuation? I asked. Impossible. We have over 8,000 personnel on this station. Even if we had enough transport capacity, which we do not, the HASC would intercept us before we reached safe distance. Vorn's tentacles drooped. So, we fight and die, or surrender and become prisoners. Those are our options. No, Thompson said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. Those are not our only options. You are thinking conventionally. Big fleet, big guns, straightforward confrontation. That is not how we win this. How do we win against 12 capital ships? Ryloth demanded. Thompson stood, moving to the tactical display. We do not fight their fleet. We make them fight each other. She pulled up data on the HASC force composition, scanning through intelligence reports. The HASC have strict military hierarchy. Every ship's captain is in direct competition for advancement. They cooperate because they have to, but they do not actually trust each other. Give them a reason to suspect betrayal in their own ranks, and their formation falls apart. How do you know this? Skelix asked. Because I spent time studying them. Last year. Different assignment. Their cultural psychology is built around individual achievement and zero-sum competition. It makes them aggressive and bold. It also makes them vulnerable to manipulation. I leaned forward. What are you suggesting? Thompson's fingers danced across the display, highlighting specific ships in the HASC formation. We feed them false intelligence. Make it look like one of their own captains is planning to betray the mission. Claim credit for themselves, eliminate rivals, whatever. We create evidence, let them intercept it, and watch them turn on each other. That is insane, Ryloth said flatly. Even if we could fabricate convincing intelligence, which is nearly impossible, why would they believe it? Because people believe what they already suspect. The HASC captains already suspect their peers of exactly this kind of betrayal. We are just confirming their existing paranoia. Vorn's tentacles perked up slightly. It could work, maybe, but we would need sophisticated counterintelligence capabilities, deep knowledge of HASC communication protocols, and someone who can think like they do. Thompson met his gaze. I can think like anyone. That is my job. The room fell silent. I considered the options. Fighting directly was suicide. Surrendering was unacceptable. This plan was risky, possibly impossible, and depended entirely on Thompson's ability to manipulate a hostile force she had no direct control over. In other words, it was exactly the kind of unconventional solution that humans specialized in. Do it, I said. You have 36 hours. Whatever you need, whatever resources, you get them. No questions asked. Thompson nodded once, already moving toward the door. I will need Vorn for technical support, Skelix for tactical analysis, and access to our most secure communication systems. Done. What are you? I'm going to tell the HASC? She paused at the doorway, that dangerous smile appearing again. I am going to tell them the truth, just not the truth they are expecting. What followed was the most tense 36 hours of my life. Thompson worked with barely any sleep, crafting layers upon layers of deception. False communications that looked like they had been intercepted. Fabricated evidence of secret meetings between HASC captains. Financial records showing transfers of funds that suggested bribery and betrayal. But the brilliance was in the details. She did not make it obvious. She left gaps, inconsistencies, things that the HASC would have to work to uncover. Made them feel like they were discovering a conspiracy rather than being fed one. 12 hours before the HASC deadline, their formation began to shift. Ships moved apart slightly. Communication chatter increased. Thompson monitored everything, adjusting her planted intelligence in real time, feeding the paranoia. 6 hours. Before the deadline, one HASC capital ship opened fire on another. The target's shields held, but the damage was done. The fleet dissolved into chaos. Accusations flew. 3 more ships exchanged fire. The commanding admiral tried to restore order, but his authority had evaporated. By the time the deadline arrived, the HASC fleet was in full retreat, half their ships damaged by their own side, their captains screaming accusations at each other across open channels. We had not fired a single shot. Thompson watched the last HASC ship disappear from our sensors, then quietly excused herself. I found her an hour later in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. "You saved us," I said simply. She shrugged. "I did my job." "No, you did something extraordinary. You saw a situation that everyone else thought was hopeless, and you found a solution that no one else would have conceived. That is what humans do, Commander. We find solutions, even when, especially when, they should not exist." I stood beside her, looking out at the void. "I owe you an apology. When you first arrived, I saw incompetence. I saw a liability. I saw exactly what you wanted me to see. You saw what made sense based on the information available. No apology necessary. Still, I underestimated you. This entire facility underestimated you." Thompson turned to face me, her expression serious. "Good. Keep underestimating humans. All of you. Because the day the galaxy stops underestimating us is the day we lose our greatest advantage." She moved toward the door, then paused. "Besides, Commander, you learned, you adapted. You took someone who appeared useless and found a way to utilize their actual skills. Most officers would have just dismissed me and moved on. The fact that you did not says something about your ability to see past your own assumptions." After she left, Vorn joined me at the observation window. "Terrifying species, humans," he said quietly. "Absolutely. But I am glad they are on our side." "So am I, Vorn. So am I." 3 months later, the Galactic Defense Force implemented Thompson's training protocols across all facilities. Her methods spread throughout the coalition, fundamentally changing how we prepared personnel for combat. Casualty rates dropped by 37% in the first year alone. Thompson herself became something of a legend. The sniper who could not shoot, the operative who saved a station without firing a shot, the human who taught the entire Galactic Defense Force that sometimes the most dangerous weapon was not a gun at all. As for me, I learned the most important lesson of my career. Never assume you understand humans. The moment you think you have figured them out, they will surprise you. They will find an angle you did not see, a solution you did not consider, a way forward when every path seems blocked. They are chaotic, unpredictable, frustrating, and absolutely essential. And I would never again make the mistake of judging one of them based on their apparent failures. Because with humans, failure is often just preparation for something extraordinary. Lieutenant Kira Thompson taught us all that lesson. She taught it by missing every shot until the moment we needed her to hit them all. And in doing so, she hit the one target that mattered most. She changed how an entire military force thought about training, about combat, about the nature of competence itself. Not bad for someone who could not hit a stationary drone.